welcome to another edition of Wrestling Sheet Radio. I'm your host, ProWrestlingSheet.com editor-in-chief Ryan Satin, here with my co-hosts, Jamie Iovine.
Hey, everybody.
As well as Elijah Bates.
Hola, amigos y amigas.
I'm sitting here, I'm like the one guy in the room now who hasn't been to Galaxy's Edge, and I'm so jealous of both of you.
How are you guys? You guys good?
I'm not as good as you.
Have you heard of the Force, Ryan?
I've heard of this mythical thing referred to as the Force.
I've only heard of the Force before, but yesterday I experienced the Force, and it was glorious, Ryan. Have you heard of the Force? I'm here to tell you about our Lord the Force, or
our Lord Midichlorian.
Yeah. It is glorious, Ryan.
I'm sad that you were posting those videos only to your Instagram story and they're not just like somewhere forever on Twitter.
I don't recommend anybody who wants to get a good sense of what Galaxy's Edge is to follow me on Instagram.
I actually disagree. I think
I would get too excited and then
but I've been following a lot of people who've been going and stuff, and you know, we maybe even know people who worked on it, and like they have big pictures, but you were a true fan perspective on it who loves Star Wars, and like you're just virgin eyes on it. And honestly, your videos, out of every person I know that's gone so far, are my favorite, and that includes all the people who covered it for a living, because your videos were so genuine of you just like seeing something and going, oh my god! Oh my god!
The way that I explained walking into Galaxy's Edge for the first time is like your Grandpa Joe and Charlie Bucket walking into the chocolate room.
It really is.
Like Wonka just singing Pure Imagination and lets you in, and all of a sudden you're just like, I'm going right for that gummy mushroom that Wonka's grown.
It really is, man.
I think they're probably still active because this by the time this goes out, they probably won't be. But man, some of those videos. There was one where it was like just like 2 seconds of you just going, oh my god, and then it just ended, and it was just like so many oh my gods that I was honestly I had to pause my TV, and Erica and I just sat there watching them, so entertained.
When the first time when I went on Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run and I pulled the lever because I was in Chewie's seat as a pilot, and I pulled the lever to go to light speed.
Come on.
I probably screamed "Let's do it" as loud as I've ever screamed that in a group
setting.
Let's do
I was like,
this!
Brock Lesnar, let's do this.
Try to scream into the microphones, because we've been getting a lot of comments, people getting angry at us when we scream into the microphone because they get mad. They're like, guys, that fucks with my fucking stereo.
Sorry, guys. It was like this, but imagine I'm screaming. Let's do this.
Hey, buy a better stereo.
You can talk loud, don't try to scream. I'm a loud person. You guys know this.
Let us do this.
Sorry, yeah.
Anyway,
I've just
been left in a really good mood since yesterday.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't seen Jamie since I saw his video, so I had to bring that up just because I honestly haven't laughed that hard in a long time, and even like the videos that you were reposting of other people taking the videos of you, like you walking into things with just this bewildered look in your eye, they were so good, every single one of them.
Yeah, I can't wait to go home and play with my lightsaber, which is something, it doesn't sound great out.
No, it actually sounds highly suggestive, but you know what? I would guarantee 90% of our listening base probably feels the same way.
All right, well, let's get into the top story of the week, and I think
great segue.
It kind of all unfolded today, really, based on a new interview he did, and that is Killer Kross. He is an Impact Wrestling star, and he talked about
that lucky son of a bitch.
He talked about why he recently asked for his release from the company, which has not been granted.
Yeah.
But he went into a lot of detail about it, which I thought was pretty interesting. So he was a guest on the Wrestling Perspective podcast, which is hosted by P.D. Williams, and he confirmed that the reports stating he asked for his release were 100% true. Now, the report from PW Insider said that Killer Kross was looking to get a new 6-figure deal with guaranteed money. Impact, however, said they couldn't do that for him, and they countered with a restructured 3-year contract that was worth well below that. Now, here's the thing.
That doesn't sound great when you say it like that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. From what I heard,
restructured 3-year deal worth significantly less than that.
Yeah, I heard it was like significantly less than that. Now, here's the thing.
Yes?
I totally sympathize with him, because here's the deal. The bottom line is this: is not only is he bummed about money because he feels like he's worth more than that, but one of the other things that kind of factored into his request for more money was apparently his personal circumstances have changed over the past year since signing with the company, and he recently had 2 people that passed away in his life, and so now he's taking care of more family members that he wasn't taking care of before. And so because of that, he needs more money, and he's bound to this contract where he can take more indie dates, but he's of the belief that doing these indie dates, he opens himself up to injury, basically, and he'd prefer to work for a company exclusively.
Totally understable.
Especially since he doesn't have health care from his employer and stuff like that.
His desires, to take care of his life, to make more money. Any human being who works could understand that concept of wanting more for what you're putting out there, especially if you feel your value has increased, if your circumstances change. That's a hard ego blockade to get past, I feel like.
Correct.
And I'm sorry.
No, but
what I think it's unfortunate still, and it's something that as much as wrestling is in the ethosphere, if you will, of popular culture, it still has a ways to go. I mean, unless you tell an employer of yours or a potential employer or any sort of business dealing that you wrestle, and then they say, "Oh, you for the WWE," and you say, "Well, no," and you mention anybody else. It's like to them, you're playing pickup basketball at the YMCA, and it's because we know that's not the case whatsoever. It's like even though AEW's around now, TNT, which will help.
The name value is not there yet. It's on the mainstream level. It's not on a wrestling mainstream level,
and it's more so just due to the ignorance. It's just people don't understand still at this point. Which I mean, you can't blame them. It's a really niche thing. It's they still don't get that there is significant sacrifice, such as what Killer Kross is saying, and it's a shame that a lot of these guys it really as a fan, because we all are, and when you see somebody that you look at, because when you're a pro wrestler, you're larger than life. You're a superhero essentially in some shape or form. And then when you go out and you see and this is please don't think this is a knock to anybody who does this because it's a job, it's a respectable income. It's like when you go out this guy is like the world champ and he has an Uber sticker on his car. It's like they shouldn't have to. But it's
what I was just thinking of too is there are people who are on television shows and a lot of people are like, oh, is it like an NBC show? Is it an ABC show? And you're like, no, it's actually an original series on Ion. Most people are going to be like, what's Ion?
Exactly.
And the difference maker between somebody who's on a TV show, like a lesser known person who's on that, is that there are unions that take care of actors, that take care of writers and stuff like that. And there is not one of those things in wrestling. I'm not advocating for it and saying that either. But there's a big difference between a lesser known actor and a lesser known professional wrestler in terms of how they are taken care of by their industries.
Which
absolutely.
Is taken care of and versus not at all.
Well, to further that, the part I didn't mention yet here, so is that he told Impact officials, that he has more responsibilities that he has to take care of now, and that's why he wants his release or more money. And when they said no to both, they basically suggested to him that he get a second job, that he go somewhere else and get a second job. And in this interview, he said, being told to go get another job by your job, that's fucked up. You're struggling to make ends meet, taking care of people, and the job that you can barely afford to have tells you to go get another job so you can keep that job. It's like working at a corporation and being told to go work at McDonald's.
It really is, because it also, who's going to want to, obviously this is no offense to him, but if you're an employer, it's not the one guy who is going to focus entirely on the job or the one guy who has to take some time off sometimes because he has to go wrestle. Who are they going to hire?
You're not, and to be fair, he's not like an unpaid intern, who has to work a waiting job or something like that, too, while he trains in this industry he hopes to be part of. He's in that industry. He's on television. I can totally sympathize with his frustrations towards it.
100%.
One thing, though, that I was thinking today, even when I was thinking about it, I was like, unfortunately, Impact Wrestling, and I'm not saying that they completely don't have the money to pay him. Impact Wrestling's not like some multi-billion-dollar company or anything like that.
So I've been thinking about that, and here's the thing with that is...
And I'm not trying to take Impact's side and saying that. I'm just looking at the dollars and cents of where they're at, the network that they're on, the lack of shows that they put out there in terms of touring house shows. It's just like they're not... Impact is not where they once were, and they're not backed by Panda Energy anymore either.
No, but they are backed by a billion-dollar company. I mean, Anthem does have a lot of money. They're not struggling for money, Anthem. But like you said, if the show's not bringing in that much to warrant that,
is it even turning a profit?
Well, see, that's the thing is you would. It seems to me from looking at all this on the outside that they told Killer Kross, we can't afford that. Like, this is not something we can afford. We're not making that much money. All the things we're saying are what they said to him. And he said, okay, cool, I want opportunity.
Release me.
And thinking that, once I prove my value, we can work on it, or I can get my release down the line, And it seems to me, and I don't know who, but it seems to me like somehow the talent found out about someone being paid a lot of money recently. That's the vibe I get. That someone was recently paid a lot of money to come into Impact.
Tommy Dreamer.
No, I mean, if you look at the landscape, one of the people I would guess, I don't know that this is the case, but one of the people I would guess is Rob Van Dam. I think that they have...
Very possible.
I think that he probably got paid a lot of money.
He's not somebody who comes out of his pseudo-retirement.
I mean, just based off of his indie booking fee alone. Yeah. Like, he has a high price tag.
And I think that they look at it like, hey... And I don't know this, but I think that this is like, from what I am putting together here, I think they look at like, hey, look at the money they're spending on some people. When we've been here, we paid our dues here and built our brand here.
That's a real...
Came up, helped the show look cooler. People think that there's like a new, up on the rise Impact. And behind the scenes, the people who are behind them aren't getting paid very well. The Jordan Graces.
It's a really tough pill to swallow. It reminds me, 7 or 8 years ago, I was working for a creative agency that shall remain nameless for right now. But
the one who hasn't paid you still?
No, this one did pay me after they went belly up. But the thing is like, this place, I remember I was putting together all the creative pitches. I was putting together most of the creative, but we had a recruiter who brought in like a creative director and some other people who were just there to work on a couple of big campaigns. And I found out, through the grapevine, how much the creative director was getting paid comparatively to me, even though we were doing pretty much the same kind of work, working on the same kinds of projects. I was doing a lot more work and going to a lot more pitches, but I found out that he was, and I was younger in my career at that point too, and he was older in his career, so like there's a split obviously right there. But I found out he was making more than 3 times more money than I did, and that, like, I mean, I was young enough at that point that like I flipped my lid enough that, dude, I straight up cried. I was like, I can't believe this. I felt so cheated by the company at that point in time. And I remember my boss at the time took me outside and he told me just kind of how it was, and he was just like, hey, you're not established. You have to understand, you haven't worked your way up the ladder. You haven't paid your dues as much. He's like, you are worth that much, but you need to work for your right to be paid that much.
That stuff eats people alive, though. I've seen it happen at TMZ. I saw it happen at other places where, like, someone finds out that someone's making more than them.
That's why you never tell anybody how much money you make.
Totally.
Ever. Always keep that close to the chest with everybody, always.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. I think here's how I kind of feel on the subject as a whole, and this goes for, I would honestly say for even Ring of Honor. I guess Ring of Honor's on a lot of TV, but like, Ring of Honor, I guess Ring of Honor's paying people decent money, but I just feel like the places like Lucha Underground, which is probably done now, and Impact, where if you're signing someone to a contract where they're maybe going to make $5,000 for the whole year, I think it's bullshit that you put them under a contract that says they can't work elsewhere on TV.
Yeah, for 100%.
Like,
yes.
Give them booking things where you give them, where you per appearance, and I realize that it makes it more difficult to invest in people, but it doesn't look like right now they're trying to invest to become the biggest company in the biggest wrestling company in the world. They look like they're trying to sustain themselves a little bit, and I feel like it's messed up to just keep people to these contracts where they're unfair.
Yeah, and the difficult thing is regardless of the loyalty that somebody like Killer Kross has to the shows, the quality he puts in, what he's willing to do to work his way up, to build his name and everything like that, Rob Van Dam is a way bigger name. Like, I mean, it's just, unfortunately, I'm not advocating saying Rob Van Dam is a better performer at this point in time. He's probably not. Like, Rob Van Dam's probably going through the motions a lot because he can. And that's kind of what he's paid for, is for the Rob Van Dam shtick and everything. But the fact is, it's just like, Killer Kross doesn't have that name value yet. And so I understand kind of the company's perspective on it, regardless of the moral fiber behind it, or whether he does, in fact, deserve to get paid more. And he probably does, like, especially if he feels this strongly and this is becoming this big of an argument in the social ether and everything like that, he probably does deserve that much money, but it's just like, I don't see Impact acquiescing to his request whatsoever.
It's a shame that the first time when a lot of these talent are given contracts, it's probably the most legalese thing they've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
like in their entire lives.
Well, and we're like a culture that grows up clicking agree to everything, to our iTunes agreements and stuff like that without reading
it. And one like a promotion is one thing, but then when you're a promotion that has a network deal, you're not just an employee of that promotion. You're an employee of that network.
Yeah.
So there's a whole other thing that people have a hard time understanding, especially if you've never been in the legal world before.
Well, you'd be amazed how many people just sign contracts right away without thinking twice. This is even with WWE. Like they get an NXT deal, they're like, hell yeah, finally, sign it, because they're scared. I've been talking to a lot of people about this on social media today. Because I tweeted about the Killer Kross thing, and one of it was Lance Archer, who said he kind of, I thought he put it very well. He said, I'm trying to pull it up real fast. He said, that's the problem with the business and the power that CEOs have. They hold that over your head like, sign it now or you'll never have another chance. And if one's never been anywhere before, they're afraid to let that chance pass them by. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it is. I mean, I do feel like people are taking advantage of.
Absolutely.
And I've seen it happen in many different places, not just one place.
I remember when I signed my contract at TMZ and reading it over and thinking to myself, like, I don't know that if this is really working towards my favor necessarily, but I needed a job at that point too. So I was like, oh, here I go.
To me, it's really, I don't even know, maybe ostentatious is the word, but I don't even know if that's it. Or even presumptuous, even that like they assume that because I don't think that they're signing these people with that they're not gonna pay them, or that I think that they assume, we're about to kill this shit, we're gonna be the next AEW, and we're gonna be able to pay them that much money.
Yeah,
I don't think that's completely across the board what happens. I think that does happen sometimes. It's a lot of balls, essentially.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I agree. I think that they were brought into Impact with the business
I don't say
model.
That happened with Impact.
I think they were brought into Impact with the business plan of like, hey, we're going to help you guys stop losing money. Yeah. And they went in there to help them stop losing money. And so I do think that they are offering people small, very, very tiny amounts to work there because they know that these people need an opportunity.
So I wonder if... if the pay isn't really there, because I mean it's not like the Impact woes that have been happening to it are new. It's come in some shape or form for the past 12 years.
Well, there's been new regimes all the time. I feel like this is the first time this latest regime has started to kind of crack, where information is starting to seep out that it's not as shiny and gold as it seems.
Fair point, but. That's a fair point, but what I'm saying is like so the money isn't a lure because as you said, these guys know that it's not a big contract. They're on what channel?
What channel are they on?
Pursuit, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
which sometimes forgets to play the show.
Yeah, they forgot to play it too, last week, didn't they?
And then I think one time they didn't come back from commercial.
So I'm trying to wonder. There has to be some other side of this.
So this is
because a lot of people are signing to Impact. A lot.
I'm trying to find the tweet here.
Am I wrong? There's been a mass influx of talent into Impact lately.
No, there's been a lot. No, there has, but I would say less lately and more like I guess lately, there have been.
I feel like for the last year or two, they've been signing a lot of lesser knowns and a lot of up and comers.
I mean, I know for a fact they've been having a lot of tryouts. Yeah, I know for a fact.
So basically, Ethan Paige responded to my tweets about this. I was kind of going back with Ethan Paige about it, and he works for Impact, and he said, I don't believe any of this should be discussed publicly. Nobody else was in the room when they agreed on terms and signed a contract to work together. We are also free to work as many indie dates as possible, which to me is an endless stream of income / possibility. Yeah. So I think the way it's looked at is like, I'm in a major company. I can still work the indies. I'm on TV sometimes. It's extra money on top of it. But I think that to someone like a Killer Kross, I also see his point that he's like, I want to work for a TV company that can pay me what I should, what I know I can draw.
What he's looking for is more of what feels like a salary gig rather than something where he has to go out and hustle, because based off the sounds of it, he had family members passed away, he has more family responsibility, may not have the time and space and emotional space specifically to go out and hustle like a professional wrestler needs to do in order to increase their worth, to work the indies, to make that money.
And I also think that he feels as though he took that deal a year ago and now he's learned that they do have the money, they just only are giving it to certain people, and he's like, no, that's unfair. I have proven my worth, and I can prove my worth even more if you gave me the money that I deserve, but they don't want to give it to him.
Yeah.
So I
really I hate this, but I kind of understand both sides of the situation here.
I also understand both sides of the situation as well.
Like Impact is not, even though they have like this big backer and everything like that, or they have somebody with, they have a corporation that owns them that's got billion-dollar pockets, that company got to that status by not spending money that they didn't need to. And if they don't need to spend money on Killer Kross, they're not going to. Like, it's just as simple as that. It sucks for him, big time. But it's like, at the end of the day, he signed a contract. It's a legally binding contract. He wants out of it. They don't want to let him out of it.
They don't have to.
Unless you want to unless you want to have a legal battle, I don't know what the solution is for him to be free of the bind of that legality.
Which one sucks because they have a lot of money and he doesn't, so they would obviously win in a legal battle. And it's
that's not one. It's not the same kind of legal battle where on a level of mainstream publicity where they would look necessarily awful about it too, because they're not necessarily breaking any rules with it too.
I also love that's why we live in California, because in California that could never happen. You could quit a company even if you're under contract, and they can't force you to a you can work your no compete clause. They can't do that shit here. So it's like laters, new job, peace type thing. I always feel bad when I see this elsewhere. I'm like, God, that's one of the things I love about California is like that would not happen.
Yeah.
And I also get Ethan Page's point too. I do get it. He's a wrestler. He wants to wrestle everywhere. He's like, no, cool. Lots of options. I do get both sides of it. But based on what you said, I actually, I felt this way in general. I think what happened, I think it's fucked up with Scarlett. That she's stuck in that contract.
Yeah, that's a real shame.
But at the same time, I feel like she has less of a thing that she can do about it, and less of a like, hey, let me out, because with her, she just wants more money, and I get that with him, he wants more money too, but he's going to them saying like, hey, I have like a real life situation that's going on here, and I need your help, and they're like, sorry,
humbug.
Exactly. Like, sorry, you signed a shitty deal. That's your fault. And that to me is like a dick thing, just as a human being.
Well, the contract thing I think is difficult for people to understand, because a lot of people don't sign contracts for their employment. If you're at will employment, if you're working, and this isn't disparaging any job in saying this, if you're working in the service industry, if you're working for retail, you typically don't have like a real binding contract in those situations. You applied via job application that they gave you and everything like that. They hired you at will employment. You can be fired, terminated any time and everything. So the idea of a legally binding contract may be less of a tangible reality for most people who live in the world. And a lot of people who are likely taking his position may not have been in a situation where you had a contract, and may not have been through a legal situation where you have to have a legal battle over a contract that you signed too, which is grisly, not fun, costs a lot of money.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say on this is, if any wrestler happens to be listening to this, or a wrestler and they're about to sign a contract, just hire a fucking lawyer. Yeah. It's like not that expensive, and
it's a one-time thing.
It's a one-time thing, and also I guarantee you, if you were smart about it, there are so many lawyers out there who are marks that are huge wrestling fans that will do it for free.
End of the day, too, when you get a lawyer to look at your contract, or they discover that you should be making more money for this reason or that reason, they can help you smooth those things out, and by proxy, you'll end up making more money in the long run.
They'll also explain to you what rollovers mean. Yeah. And like that, like, you can get stuck in a deal that you don't even realize. Like, they'll say it's for this, but it's actually longer, and you don't realize. It's just hire a lawyer.
It sucks having to involve a lawyer into anything, because typically it's not a comfortable situation, but it's the best possible way to get through it.
Speaking of an uncomfortable situation, let's talk about Goldberg and the Undertaker in Saudi Arabia.
Oh boy!
Was that a good segue? I saw Jamie was checking his phone for the time, so I figured we switched topics.
I just got to be real. That was the most businessy segment we've ever had.
Probably.
That was a lot of business talk,
probably.
even for me.
Yeah.
Like, that was, like, geez.
I thought that was an interesting topic,
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I
am not disagreeing with that. What we said on this show needed to be said. 100%. That being said, it's not a real fun topic by any means.
No, actually,
it's probably the only topic where we'd ever be like, just be smart and get a lawyer.
Totally.
Like,
God,
why
I mean, like, I'm glad we
that?
said it, but that was fucking homework, dude.
It's so funny that you say that because Ethan Page, when we were talking about it, it ended with him saying something along the lines of like, "Hey, let's talk about this on a podcast or something." And I wanted to say to him like, "Yeah, let's do a podcast, but let's like not talk about this the whole time because that sounds depressing the whole time."
We should have had Larry H. Parker on the phone right now.
And also, I just want to clarify. Earlier, I said that Killer Kross was a lucky son of a bitch. I did not refer to his current situation. Just want to. I know you know, but I
think anyone listening to this
let's be clear.
Understood what you meant.
Okay, I just want to make sure he knows.
On to Goldberg.
What'd you guys think of it? Let's hear you guys talk.
Fine. It would. Now that
all respect to Goldberg and the Undertaker.
Of course. That's on the table. That's this green thing right here.
Like the color of money.
Yes.
Like the color of sweet Saudi money.
And it's sort of a
Actually,
U.
I don't know what Saudi
It's sort
is.
of a U. It could be a G.
Yeah.
No, but
Brought to you by Collider. Could be a U, could be a G.
I'm gonna pitch that new slogan for them. Hey, Mark. Jamie thought of a great slogan for you guys.
Did you see Undertaker versus Goldberg? Because it kind of hinges on that.
You should go watch it if you haven't. But like, now that I'm behind the blast zone, now that it's the hoopla has calmed down, it was fine until Goldberg bashed his brain twice. Because I don't know if he would have gotten his bell rung as much if he hadn't have headbutted the locker.
Why does he do that?
He said he was not going to, and he did it anyway.
Can't they give him like a prefab locker where it breaks or something like that?
Give him a boxing pad, like something.
Put a crash test dummy back there.
That'd be the funniest thing if he ever wrestles again and he walks into his locker room in the back and it's just a padded room and they're like, wait. He's like, wait, what? What's going on?
Is he a crazy person? It's like a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, you are a crazy person. You keep slamming your head into the door before you go out.
Which, by the way, nobody sees.
Don't scream.
I'm sorry. I get angry. I get hyped. But nobody's like, I get it because sometimes they did have a camera inside the locker and you would see him do it. But that was for the audience of nobody.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite part was like they're doing the whole dum 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 dum, and they like knock on the door, and then you just hear like so loud, and I'm like, this idiot, no one's why.
No, you hear
and you're just like, why? And then he walks out of the room and is already bleeding. You're like,
at least,
what are you doing?
I texted the crew. I was like, this motherfucker did it again.
I was laughing.
At least if he walked out with something that typically comes out of a locker, like an algebra textbook or something like that, I'd appreciate it. But it's just like, stop doing that. Somebody what they need to do? Crush up some Xanax and put them into that guy's water bottles before the show. If his anxiety's that bad that he's got to headbutt the lockers every single time, it's like, that guy needs some medication.
They sell these like trash cans that are that are like plastic that are like
biodegradable.
No, like you blow it up like it's a blow up kind of toy, but it looks like a trash can. And you give him one of those so he can hit his head with it and not
set up
pain.
like one of those giant Jenga stacks or something like that. Let him headbutt something else where it has like effect that's going to like do it for him.
And now I just want a video of Goldberg headbutting random things that are like that won't hurt him. But him just screaming.
By the way, this isn't the first time he's done something like this. It's not even the second time.
Didn't he do it before he fell when he was trying to kick Rusev too? Like he did it one time in
I didn't even remember that, but I'm referring to when he punched a hole in the limo.
Oh yeah,
like he
where it's like the part where he's supposed to punch or the rod came out or whatever, and he ended up slicing his arm and being out of action for forever.
He hurts himself.
Didn't he hurt himself punching like a vending machine too or something?
I think he's hurt himself a couple of times in ways where he's like wanted to get his intensity across, and it's like, hey, this is a fake sport. Like Like, you need to stop.
Yeah, I just felt bad altogether about it because
it wasn't even funny, dude.
And it also didn't need to happen, really.
No, it didn't.
It didn't need to happen, and I realize it did because they're being paid millions of dollars. What's frustrating to me though is that I just feel like I wish WWE wouldn't let them be put in that position because I feel like it does
sully.
Yeah, it does sully the legacy of the Undertaker. The more of these he does at the tail end.
It either sullies the legacy of these long since done performers, or it tarnishes whatever legacy they're trying to build with these events and everything. I would even say that match with Kane and Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels and Triple H.
I was just about to bring that up.
It's basically just been axed from the memory of anything that's ever happened, and that's what's going to happen to this one too. The only thing that's going to remain from this is that look that the Undertaker gave at the end of the match that was the product of many memes this past week.
I mean, to me, I'd said this to you guys before, and I really stand by this. And again, you said this before. Two of the all-time greats. Can't knock what they've done.
No, but
it's what happens when you overcomplicate things. 100%. Going in that you had twilight of his career to Undertaker. Goldberg towards the twilight of already done with his career.
Yeah.
Done, way done.
They did way past the twilight of his career.
Going in, but he wasn't even a match worker in his prime.
No.
And you are, so he's not.
The fact that Brock Lesnar got 5 minutes out of him at WrestleMania was astounding.
And he's not better somehow, in his close to 60s, So the math didn't line up from the jump. From the gate, it looked like what?
Yeah.
Like this?
Why?
What? Like that circle didn't fit in that square.
Even when they announced that match, it was kind of oh.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
I
exactly,
guess. Undertaker and Goldberg.
It is a dream match in 2K when they have unlimited wind when they can do 100 moves.
That was the first time they ever faced off, correct?
Yes.
Correct. And I was talking about this with Batista. I interviewed him this week.
What did he think about it?
Well, he didn't want to give his full opinions on it, but he did say a few things about it. But he didn't want to specifically comment on
understandable
what he saw in the match. First of all, he did say something funny. He said that he said that he called Undertaker on Friday before the match and talked to him on the phone and was like, "Hey man, is there any way I can talk you out of doing this match?" And he said Undertaker laughed and was like, this sounded like a better idea when they first pitched it to me a while back, and I thought it was going to be okay. But the closer we get, the less I'm stoked about it. And I'm paraphrasing here. Less stoked I am about it. He was like, "But I'm obligated to do it now, and I'm here, so I kind of have to do it." But he also said, because he was talking about his own match against Triple H at WrestleMania, and he was saying that they didn't touch it all prior, that they didn't train together, that they didn't get to train before. They went. It sounds like the Performance Center. He didn't say the Performance Center, but they went to a place together to train. And he basically said,
WWE sets up tents at outside the arena. A lot.
It wasn't the week of. It was beforehand.
So it's probably in Stamford, I'd assume.
Either Stamford or Performance Center. I think he's in Florida sometimes, Batista. Okay. That's why I guess that. I don't know exactly. He didn't specify where, but he said that he met with Triple H, and that Triple H said, we can go in the ring right now. We can train. We can work on the match. There's a good chance I'll feel fine, everything will be good, and we'll probably have a better match for it. He's like, but there's also a chance that I get in the ring with you here, we start training, I re-tear my pec because it's not fully healed, and then the match at WrestleMania is off. And basically, I'd rather have it happen at WrestleMania where we have to continue than here where nobody is here and we ruin one of our marquee matches for the event. So he was like, okay, cool.
It was interesting because I remember even watching that Triple H special about his week before WrestleMania and everything like that. And the match with Batista was all of a sudden it was like, oh, right, I have a match with Batista too.
Yeah. Well, and also,
I was like, are you kidding me? That's the biggest part of the week.
And also Dave said that, the two of them talking, and basically Triple H was like, look, you and I have wrestled a million times. We know each other. We know what we can do in the ring. We know our limitations. We know our capabilities. That sounds so crazy to
me, though, too. That sounds like literally the dreams that I have where they're like, hey, your match is next. I'm like, I'm not a performer, but I guess I got to do it.
That's funny.
And so,
but going back,
real fast. And he said that he was like, because the two of us have wrestled so many times, I think that's why we were able to still put on a match that I'm happy with. He was like, but that match could have been horrendous. He was like, that match could have been very bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when I brought up the Undertaker thing, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, look at Undertaker and Goldberg, and he kind of, that's when we talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was going back to what I was saying about it being overcomplicated. What do you really need from a Goldberg Undertaker match?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, a lot of the brouhaha is the entrance, and then
which the entrances were dope.
the entrances were fine.
Undertaker's entrance was sick.
I mean, Goldberg kind of phoned in the pyro, but maybe he just doesn't want to be burned today.
Maybe.
You know? I mean,
and it was also already hot there.
It was already really hot. And also, you need... It started great.
It did. Like when he did the
and then the two spears off top.
Yeah, I was into it.
Yeah, and
I was in my apartment like,
yeah, because that's all you need.
And then when he hit his head on the turnbuckle, I was like, this is probably gonna turn bad here. And then you see again this giant cut on the side of his head.
See, I wish that he would have had something
trying to do the jackhammer.
If this was a cartoon, which the world of professional wrestling in its fictional sense is. But this was obviously a real life injury. If it was a cartoon, he would have been like conked his head and thought he was like
birds,
or he would have thought maybe he was another wrestler, and then, and then he would have mimicked. You know, he was like, oh, he's Jim the Anvil Neidhart now, or something like that.
That would have been cool.
That would have been very interesting. You know, and one of the things I got to say about like these, if they're gonna keep trucking out the old dogs, and I love the old dogs. You know, I've had an old dog previous in my life. It was the best period of his life. However, I would never take him out. I've already about that, but I would never take him to go run. I would never take them to do anything physical. So when it comes to these old dogs, if they want to trot them out, they got to gimmick up these matches, and they got to have run-ins galore.
What they have to do is they need to put them against a young guy. They can't have old-timers anymore. They have to have young guys in there.
What they did with Taker and Rusev was perfect.
Totally.
That was exactly what they should do for every
I was even
legend.
thinking, like, in terms of, like, I didn't like the match. However, like, I would vouch that the end of what happened at the end of Triple H and Sting with the NWO and DX coming out, something like that happening at one of these Saudi events is totally welcome, because you're not expecting a 5-star match. As a matter of fact, you're just praying that this is not a horrible match.
Correct.
And so, like, they need to start gimmicking up, or just adding people in there, or having people run out, having like Vince McMahon run out, or somebody like that. You know, if you're going to go so old school and you're going to rely on the Attitude Era, you're going to rely on the yesteryear of WCW, etc., bring in some of those other people from that era, because you're going to be celebrating that era the same way you are by having those people, but at the same time, you're going to give the fans even more of stars of yesteryear that they'd love to see, too.
Yeah, I mean,
absolutely.
It goes to that point. I mean, whenever they show replays of the NWO and DX coming out, I mean, the highlight is them walking.
Yeah.
Like, the punching and all that stuff when they actually get down. You know,
the music playing.
Yeah.
And then coming out, and you're like, no way, they're here.
Like, you know,
they're here.
Like, oh, they start fighting.
That's why even at that WrestleMania, when I thought, like, for sure, I thought the Four Horsemen were coming down. I even screamed it around, like, the local area, and everybody at WrestleMania 31 that was sitting around me was positive that the Four Horsemen were about to come out, because I was like, oh, you got DX, you got the NWO, that Sting, though, he needs the Horsemen, and I was like, oh, the Horsemen are coming, and everybody, like, I remember the match ended, and everybody was just, like, looking at me like a guilty party. I was like, I'm really sorry, I'm really drunk.
You were so drunk that WrestleMania. I remember.
I don't remember a lot of it.
Sting's injury becomes so much more of a bummer now.
Every time I think about it, dude.
Because this would have been Sting versus Undertaker. This was.
He would have made it happen.
He would have.
He would have.
He probably could have still, to be honest with you. He's scared of that one bump going the wrong way. I get it. Yeah. But I feel like, I know we discussed Ric Flair being able to put on a 6-star match.
Yeah, come on, dude.
Like,
the Sting is worried, dude, about his neck. Like, he's and I have to get turned upside down.
Dropped on my neck.
I will definitely tell you, I think that Flair could have done better than Goldberg. And the only reason I say that is because Flair knows how to be dramatic.
It would have
He knows how to get
disgusting.
for sure. For sure. But the dude knows how to scream as if he's being mutilated.
Yes.
And I feel like Flair can take a beating, which is really, like, I mean, these matches, again, like, are any of these matches with these old dogs going to go over 2 stars? Probably not. They're probably all going to be -star matches when it comes down to it. So throw in the theatrics. Like, let's make this like the pinnacle of what sports entertainment is supposed to be.
I actually don't think we're going to see another one of these, because I've been racking my brain over, like,
who could it be?
Who could it be? And I talked about it on the Raw recap with Roca, and I talked about it with Ryback on his podcast too. But, like, I just can't. I can't think of anybody else they do.
DX versus the NWO.
That was what I said with Roca.
Yeah.
Was DX versus the NWO? But then, like, who do you use for the NWO?
Scott Norton,
Waltman. We discussed this on the Raw recap.
I mean,
and we got this.
National
because
Waltman.
Waltman's got to be in DX. You can't have X-Pac not in DX. He's DX.
Shoot.
So you go.
Nash comes in for a hot tag,
Hogan,
maybe.
Hall, which that already doesn't sound good. Then the only other people I was able to come up with are the best one was Scott Steiner.
Scott Norton and Scott Steiner.
That's it. Yeah, those were the two. Scott Steiner, Scott Norton, and Scott Steiner is like persona non grata in WWE.
Damn, there's a lot
so
of-
how do you do that? And also Billy Gunn's in AEW. So like, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's really tough.
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
You know what? There's one.
I mean, you can't do the Four Horsemen either.
Could you imagine
Nah.
if the Goldberg Taker match was a casket match? Would have made things so much easier.
Oh, yeah.
Because the whole
Would've.
thing, you're just pushing,
Trying to push someone over.
Hey,
Yeah.
How awesome would it have been if it was a casket match? Goldberg rings his bell and he just gets rolled in the casket and it's just over like that. And then maybe Undertaker, maybe they set up a hydraulic system with the casket where he can choke slam the whole casket.
That'd be cool.
That would be badass.
Honestly, the next one's Mick
Visual is-
Foley.
Like, I want this to go so theatrical with the way that they do these matches from now on. It's like they're going to need to. Like, I mean, let's bring in some computer generated.
Dude,
I
He's
can
gonna
see
want
Mick
Ta-
Foley in a Buried Alive match or something like that out there.
he's gonna want Taker.
Is that
He's-
inappropriate
he-
for out there? Is that,
He wants Taker
Maybe
Foley.
not.
He wants Taker Foley Hell in a Cell too.
Oh God, don't.
He-
Could you Could you imagine what that would look like? We just saw Undertaker versus Goldberg, and that. Oh my God!
I don't think they could climb the cage.
They get
they
forklifted up
start.
there.
They start climbing. They're like, nah. They just climb back
I don't-
down.
I mean-
shake hands and walk away.
Like
Terry
maybe-
Funk meets him at the top of the ramp.
Maybe they have like one of those chairs that like disabled people have in their staircase that takes them up the stairs, and they have one of those that goes around the whole cell. So like the entrance takes about 45 minutes because it's slowly just going up around the cell. It's pretty high, so it would take a while.
It goes all the way around, not
Yeah.
just one side. It goes all the way around like a circle around it.
That'd be awesome.
I just picture them super eager.
Yeah. Like, this match is about to begin.
I'm gonna kill
We're gonna
you.
hit our intermission.
I'm gonna kill you when I get up there.
All of a sudden, they both point out and they just strap into this thing to carry them up.
It breaks halfway up. It's just like, all right, folks, we'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. No, like I agree with you. I don't know. Like, I mean,
I
I'm
made
trying
the chair lower.
I'm trying to think of like another match, but it's just like outside of lesser retired people like a Batista or somebody or Cena or somebody along those lines, like there's not really big stars that aren't wrestling right now that you could bring in for that event.
Yeah.
Dude, that's why I've been struggling. Like, I haven't pulled up the alumni page, but like, there's really like, there's not.
I mean, you could do those dream matches. You know, you could do a Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles, and that you could do dream matches where it was a legend versus a current star. I think.
That's what I think you need to do.
I think that's
and those will be at least.
Here's the question though.
Satisfactory.
I read a report today that said, you know, and I can't speak to the accuracy of this, but I believe I read it on more than one site, and it was probably just aggregated and put on all these sites. But
I read it on
Shane McMahon thing?
no, it was the story about how like the Saudi WWE audience is actually a younger demographic. And
Yeah,
now
I
it's
saw
like
it
a
was from Meltzer.
And so to some extent, it's like, well, I know that you're appeasing the king or whomever it is, or the prince or whomever that wants like these Attitude Era matches. But if the demographic is leaning younger for these events and everything of the category of fan that exists in Saudi Arabia, it's like, well, why are you going for Goldberg then?
I guess they aren't. It's not like every other match is one of these things.
Yeah, it's true. But still, it's just like, well, why do you like? I mean, you know, and I guess to some extent, WrestleMania is typically sold off of one or two of these kinds of matches too. But
I think it's like a mix of the two because it's a mix of the younger people with like who he wants to see the prince type thing. You know, another name that keeps coming to my mind that it's not on the level, but he's from the era that you could do something cool with, and that's Ken Shamrock.
I was just about to say that.
He's the only other one that I
was
feel
literally
like,
as you were saying that, I was about to. He's going to say Ken Shamrock.
and he wasn't that bad when he had that indie match recently. It wasn't like embarrassing or anything like that. And he might not have been like a main eventer.
Well, dude, he wasn't that crisp in the ring when he was in his prime. Like it was really rough. It was really a rough shot style. Like that belly to belly suplex looked like your feet were going to end up in the the rafters.
Well, you know, to some extent, they do this battle royal every single time. Why isn't the battle royal 20 legends? You know, because then you could have Undertaker in there.
They had Iron Sheik win the gimmick battle
I
royal.
know.
Dude didn't even walk the entire match.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, why not pile up a battle royal with these stars of yesteryear where they can hide their flaws? You know, like one of the big Paul Heyman quotes that they always quote is like, you shine a spotlight on the positives and you keep the light off the negatives. Don't put Undertaker and Goldberg in a one-on-one match in the main event of a show like that.
With no gimmicks, no stipulation
With nothing.
whatsoever.
Like, don't put Goldberg in that match.
Barely
Like, I mean,
any story to it.
Like, I mean, Taker's legs are like, you know, are like noodles at this point. Like, I mean, I just like I feel bad watching the guy walk and try and get up and stuff like that because I'm like, he is old, he is broken down, he is not able to put on a decent match the way that he used to. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't wrestle still. Wrestlers can have whatever career they want, and I get it, they need to make money and everything like that too, but it's just like, come on, you got to stop putting him in such a visible spot to fail.
I also think we're going to see Big Show in one of these
marquee
matches. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't been inserted in there yet, but I think they've been waiting until they need it.
Yeah.
He'll be one of the other ones that's used in that main event.
You think about maybe Mark Henry? I don't know.
I don't know if he's a big enough star.
I don't know if he's a big enough star either. But is he bigger than Ken Shamrock? Who's bigger, Ken Shamrock or Mark Henry? Mark Henry, right?
Well, he's had the more longevity of a career.
But I guess Ken Shamrock's known by more people because of UFC.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that either of them are noteworthy enough from that era to book like a main event match.
Maybe he really loved the sexual chocolate gimmick. But maybe. I doubt you'll be able to do that in Jeddah.
I looked through, while we were talking, I looked through the entire WWE alumni page on WWE.com. Ken Shamrock's literally the only one they haven't used that I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, because I mean, just like, it sucks. I mean, like, most of the legends are gone.
Or passed away, yeah. Or just not able to do something like that.
And I mean, and I guess it goes to show just the difference of category of superstar that came from that era, that came up in the Attitude Era, and how they started producing superstars after the Attitude Era too. Because like a lot of those big stars from like the post Attitude Era, in some ways are still around. Like Randy Orton's still there. Batista, they just pulled him back for WrestleMania. Cena is only in the last year and a half to 2 years has really started distancing himself from the world of professional wrestling. Like there's not a lot of other humongous stars from that era.
I mean, the two X Factors are The Rock and Stone Cold.
Sure, yes.
Those are the two X Factors. I don't think The Rock's going to do it, but you never know.
The Rock definitely doesn't need the money, but he's also a businessman. So, like, I mean, I think if the $5 million, $10 million were on the table for a single match, I think that he would engage that conversation.
I don't know if they pay him that much.
It's really cool, though, just going back to what you were just saying about, like, the talent these days. It's, this current generation are going to have their heroes around a lot longer than we do.
Yeah.
Which is what we just said. Like, every time my friend would come up to me, like any friend would come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, like you're into wrestling. You're part of the wrestling business now." Like, like, "Oh, whatever happened to such and such?" And every other guy would be like, "He's dead."
Yeah.
Which is, you can't.
Well,
really,
even
like,
when we were going over the NWO members, I was like, Boss Man gone. Perfect gone. Rick Rude gone. You start to look at like a lot of those people, and they're not going to bring back Virgil for NWO. They're not going to bring back VK Wall Street or IRS or Buff Bagwell. I mean, if he was able to go and he wasn't torn apart at this point, Lex Luger I could see somebody that they'd be back,
but no,
they can't.
No, I know. I'm saying he can't.
Yeah.
Lex Luger, but he can't even walk.
Yeah. That's why I thought you were saying he.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
It's like when I went through the list of both NWO Red and Black, I was just like, ugh. And
when I was talking about Roka, he said that Black and Red doesn't count. And I was like, well, that's not fair because then you got a limited pool.
Yeah.
Like, because I was you can include Conan.
I would say.
But he also doesn't really wrestle anymore.
Conan was, red, was
black and white.
It was black and white for a long time.
He's still. I don't think they'd ever bring him into WWE for something like that.
Not.
His first match when he's that old, like no.
No, like there's really like Sting is one.
Has Scott Norton ever wrestled in WWE? No, right?
No,
not to my knowledge.
They wouldn't bring him in either. Then they couldn't do that match.
No, it's like you could do it 2-on-2.
The only other person I had another suggestion, and Roka was very offended by it. We were discussing this on the Raw recap. I was like, throw Jeff Jarrett in there.
Yeah.
He was in the NWO.
You could do it like this. The only way that I feel like you could do, and like it would almost have to be one-on-one. And the only thing that I think you could do where you could do the one-on-one match that would work if it was NWO versus DX is Shawn Michaels versus Kevin Nash. Because they also have embedded history between them outside of NWO and DX. Like, they were together. So, like, there is a rivalry that you could play off of right there. They did headline a couple pay-per-views together. They headlined, or they were one of two headline matches at WrestleMania 11.
Has there been a Hulk Hogan versus Triple H match?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Triple H lost the WWE Championship to Hulk Hogan in 2002.
I just really don't want to see Shawn in gear anymore.
I don't either.
I really don't.
But that does make the most sense.
That's the only way I could see it done because Hogan can't take
also,
bumps.
you could do the curtain call match. You could do You could do Shawn Michaels and Triple H versus.
I don't know can Scott Hall do a match though.
No.
Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
I don't think Scott Hall. Hey, that's
Man, I don't give a shit how good DDP Yoga is. Nobody's getting in the ring like that.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting cleared for a match. You're right.
That'd be great though. You could bring DDP in for a match.
He might be able to.
I'd take a DDP main event. DDP versus Orton for the Master
If
of the
anybody-
Diamond Cutter.
Ooh, that's a good.
That'd be fun.
That's a good one right there. Does he wrestle? Yeah, I don't think he wrestles.
I don't think
He does
wrestles.
diamond cutters every once in a while.
He does throw out diamond cutters every once in a while.
Maybe they could have it like kind of how they do like the arm wrestling matches or the pose downs, where they could be like, let's see how many different.
He's
diamond
definitely
cutters you can
not
do.
as physically imposing as he used to be.
No.
He even admits that he doesn't lift weights anymore.
No,
He
and
just does
he's
the
kind of
yoga.
got like that old person face thing going on that Vince McMahon has
Yeah.
too, where it's just like, oh, he's old.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm sorry, and that's not a diss. People get old, but I don't look at Vince McMahon and be like, that's a virile son of a gun. I'm like, he's an old man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I can't talk about the spoiler, but
No.
it's a nice NXT spoiler.
You can do
I
it.
one of the shows.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot people are listening.
People are listening. It's not just us speaking, Jamie. Lastly, I want to talk about, before we get out of here, I want to talk about some AEW related stuff. I kind of like this. I think it was a good idea that this week they announced that their next event, Fyter Fest, will be available for free on the BR Live app. It was announced this week on TNT's Twitter page, and I think Kenny announced it during E3 as well, that it's going to be on the Bleacher Live app, no cost, when it takes place on June 29th, live from Daytona Beach. Now, I know that there was kind of like, a lot of people felt like the price point for Double or Nothing was a little too expensive.
Yes.
So there are new fans who kind of were priced out, it feels like. I think this was a smart way to try and bring those people back in who were interested, that heard good things about Double or Nothing, and now are like, let me check out this new wrestling company. And I think that the matches they have announced so far do seem like pretty dope matches.
They're all pretty big bangers.
Yeah,
I'd
we
say.
got Cody versus Darby Allin, Adam Page versus MJF versus Jungle Boy versus Jimmy Havoc, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks versus Lucha Bros, and a mystery partner, and Jon Moxley versus Joey Janela. Do you guys think it was smart of them to put this one out there for free?
For the reason you just said, absolutely. I mean, it is a shame that, it's one of those things that it's one of those, like, once the genie's out of the bottle, it's hard to get him back in terms of pricing. And now that WWE ad nauseum said how inexpensive their business model is in terms of the network, it's kind of hard to go and say, oh, well, here's this new company, and it's our first pay-per-view, but you're going to have to fork up $60 for it. Or $50
Still
for
expensive.
it. It's expensive. I mean, still, yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's...
Somebody step on a duck.
We're like trapped in this room. There's no.
You're
We're like
such
in
an
a, we're like
asshole.
stuck in a vacuum.
Sorry, I drink a lot of La Croix.
Like, come on, dude. You've held it together for 3 years.
It's not a bad one. Trust me.
I'm kind of impressed that after as long as we've been doing this show, that's the first time
That's
one
what
of
I'm
us
saying.
has loudly
He's
farted.
held it together.
Like, I'm sure one of us has farted during the show before.
I'm really sorry,
But
guys.
that was definitely the loudest one that I've heard. And it happened during a quiet moment.
You know,
and
though,
you had the most guilty look on your face right when it happened. like we were in this combo, and then it happened.
really
and I
thought it
just
was
look
gonna be
over at you,
quiet.
and you had that look on your face.
I thought it was
Sorry,
going to be
guys.
silent, but it made a sound.
No, but you know what though? Sometimes when they are loud like that, typically when they're loud like that, it's like a trumpet. There's no gas behind it. It's just pump.
Oh man, that was so funny.
Damn it. I don't even know what I was
I
saying
don't know
anymore.
what you were saying.
I think it's a great idea for them to give this show
Thank
away
you.
for free.
Get us
Yeah,
back.
oh yeah. Yeah. It was a high price point. Yeah, but I'm just I guess it wasn't as much of a problem for me because I'm just used to that, like as a child, that's how much you paid for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I thought of, because, WWE's business model makes sense because there's because people are tuning in every month. They don't. AEW doesn't have the model where they can tune in every month or every day yet. So the price made sense to me. How else are they going to break even with this event?
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's a way. A lot of people, if they weren't priced out, they want to fork up the money, which it's no knock to them. It's just how the way a lot of things cost nowadays. Why would you? And so this is a way to get more eyes on the market, like you just said. and you kind of just knocked out all the major points before any of us started talking, Ryan.
Sorry.
Well, no, and I would also agree that there's a lot of
Eli kind of like threw me for a whirlwind. I had a really good point in there, I'm sure.
It was like a trombone. It was like,
but you really thought it was going to be silent.
There
are three boys in this room.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it's a great idea because they're putting a lot of names on the event, but they're not putting matches that people would like. I feel like some of the matches are ones where people would be less apt to pay for, but they're giving them a lot of those names that they want to see though. Too.
Absolutely, that's a good point.
Yeah,
because Joey and Cody are less established. I'm sorry, Darby and Joey are less established.
For sure. But you got Kenny Omega.
I honestly,
I forgot there's a camera.
I have the headphones on, and I know that you definitely.
I heard it without the headphones.
Like, I seriously, the reason I've been laughing to her is because I can't wait to cut that clip afterwards, because I can't wait to see Eli's face when we're like this, and I want to see his face in like the few seconds leading up to it, and he makes the internal decision that like this is a good time to do this. I'm pretty sure it's not going to make a noise.
Well, I did one earlier in the show and it didn't smell, so I was like, okay, Bates, it's like you've got a little backup right now. Just let it out softly. And then, my Commander William Riker from Star Trek The Next Generation trombone player came out.
You really looked like the dramatic chipmunk.
See, I usually save it for my car ride home.
You shocked yourself.
Usually save it.
Really was. Look, that was the best part. It's because we heard it. And it's such a...
Hey, I love how you're like, you made it 3 years. Actually, 4 years almost.
Yeah, I know.
Ah.
We made it so long. I'm honestly amazed.
We haven't had one fart joke this whole time.
No. Well, it was bound to happen eventually.
But you're right. The part where they're putting about they're featuring a lot of their young talent is a good point, and I do think that might be part of why, because I don't think that they maybe have as big of like a pay-per-view buy if this was a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's gonna have a shorter card than some of the other ones they've had. And I do think putting it out there for free was a very smart decision.
It's a good advertorial, for AEW too. It's just like you're gonna get eyeballs on the product. Is
advertorial a word?
It's like advertising editorial.
I know, but was that an actual word?
I don't know, but I'm just trying to keep the show together at this point.
He's just trying to talk about forget about his fart moment.
I can't look him in the face.
No, I've been
Jamie can't even talk right now.
When Jamie looks at me in the eyes, I've been looking over at you, and you're looking at Jamie, and I'm like, okay, Bates, just keep this alternation happening until that red light comes on.
I can't look at him in the eye. I really can't.
I'll just be like,
oh man.
Yeah. But no, I do think that it works. Let's look at my coffee cup. I think that it works as like a really good mechanism for getting the brand name out there and making sure that people are obviously aware of AEW, but are more so familiar with the next upcoming show, which naturally they're going to charge for.
They may already.
Your cup makes it even weirder for me.
They may already be doing it, but do you think they'll do it on the beach, a la Bash at the Beach?
No, because it's in the. I saw what it looks like, the setting or whatever.
That would have been fun.
That would have been cool.
Get Hasselhoff to show
I think
up?
they're going to do that for the Jericho Cruise. I think they're going to have a stop where they get off somewhere, and there'll be like an actual wrestling match on the
that'd
beach.
be cool.
Because that's why they tried to get Bash at the Beach. That's my guess. I don't know that, but it makes no sense.
Could you just imagine, like, not as jumbled as some of the Bash at the Beaches looked, but like a dope beach party that there just was a wrestling ring in the middle?
Well, I think
there's a slip and slide down to the ring.
Well, I think for the Jericho Cruise, either the last one or the one coming up, there's like a part of the cruise where you guys get off for a day and you're on like an island.
Are you going?
Well, there's a lot of these Bahama cruises, a lot of these cruise lines. Royal Caribbean has one, Disney has one. They have these Ks that they own where they've kind of set up like a resort area where you can go there and rent jet skis and do this, that, and the other. There's water slides and zip lines and things along those lines. So, and there's typically, there is probably space on one of these things to set up up a ring,
ring,
standing
an
room
area.
only, and stuff like that. And
if you think about it too, like I'm pretty sure they had trouble logistically with the boat and the wrestling ring last time.
Yeah.
Like, because it's like this the whole time.
Well, yeah,
I mean, wrestling on a boat
it's
seems
one of the
intense.
things you don't expect when you go on a cruise is that it's not like you're just walking on firm ground. The ocean moves, and the ocean is far more grand than like a boat could ever be.
So I could totally see them doing a special built around Jericho's cruise.
Yeah.
And all that kind of thing.
They you wouldn't have known from the match quality. I mean, they did.
When is the Jericho cruise?
I don't know.
You're not going?
No.
I wouldn't mind going on a regular cruise with you guys though sometime.
No, it's not that I don't want to go. It's just that, it's just cruises in general I don't like because you can't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best cruise to go on like out of California is when they have like that 2-night Mexico cruise down to Ensenada and back
That's
out of like
fine.
Long Beach. Because then it's like you get in, you eat a bunch of food, you feel like garbage on day 3, and you're like, thank God I get to get off of this ship.
Yeah, like I remember when I used to DJ, I was one of the DJs on one of those EDM cruises where they fly in a bunch of DJs and they just play for 24 hours because it's on the open seas.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Like literally after my set, I was like, I want to go home.
Yeah, that sounds
and
awful.
there's 4 more days of this.
Yeah.
That's why when I always hear those like the 311 cruise, I'm like, I love 311. Like we saw them the other day.
Yeah,
but
after the concert,
I don't know if I really want to be on a 311 like fest for a week. Like although 311 were awesome. Also, so was Limp Bizkit. Eli, you missed out. Jamie, thank you for hooking that up.
I did have a good time at Magic Castle though.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
that's what matters.
Yeah, it was. They put on a performance. For those of you watching, I recommend you check out the Road to Fyter Fest. Have you been watching those, Jamie?
Yes. Uh-huh.
This week's episode, super cool, I thought, and it was clear that they're working with outside producers and directors and stuff like that because they're getting credited at the bottom.
Which one of them's even a former WWE person?
Which one?
Palumbo?
Really?
The first one? Yeah, for Darby, I think. No, for Joey. The girl
Really?
who did the Joey. Yeah, she's because I worked with her.
Okay.
Yeah, and I recognized her name, and I remember now because I saw her at Starcast.
The Joey one was great.
Yeah, I remember.
also,
She's a former WWE person.
I thought that was the best promo I had seen from Joey. Like he looked like he put some real work into that, and it was very worth watching. I recommend you guys watch if you haven't seen it yet. And same for the Darby Allin one at the end. I didn't know a lot of that stuff about Darby Allin, and I don't even I knew he skateboarded, but I didn't know how like deep in the skateboarding scene he was stuff. I like his whole everything. I like everything about him. I honestly think that as much as I think MJF is going to be one of the like people who breaks out, and same with Hangman, I think Darby Allin will too.
Yes, if he keeps. I mean, it really just depends on how long he's really gotten his body. Hey, he said it himself. Like people tell him to be safer and stuff, and like that he needs to tone it down. If that's how he wants to live his life and that's his career choice, as long as he's not hurting other people, then hey, go for it, man. You're a grown man. But that also tends to not as long of a career, which he may be fine with. Darby kind of seems like the kind of guy that, hey, I would love to be an old man, but if I die going off a flaming motorcycle off of a ravine, I'd be okay with that as well.
Yeah.
And Darby's a kind of day-by-day guy, not a long-term person. So I think it works for him.
Do you think Cody puts Darby over, or do you think Darby loses to Cody?
The pairing of Darby and Cody was so interesting to me because as far as I can really think, Cody hasn't really wrestled anybody much smaller than him. I mean, Marty, sure, but Darby is significantly smaller than a lot of these people. Like I'm talking Ray WCW days, Rey Mysterio, and I've never seen Cody work down. When I say down, I don't mean lesser than. I mean literally down.
Didn't he wrestle Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania?
But that was also so long ago now too.
Yeah, and this isn't I don't consider that Cody. Cody.
That's true.
And it'll be a good match. I have no doubt. But it's a very interesting pairing. Not like if I were the booker for the first non-Double or Nothing event. It's not to say it's a bad idea. By no means. It's just not the first thing that comes to mind when I'm booking the card.
It's actually one of the reasons I think that Darby might go over. Because for that reason, I think that maybe they see a lot in Darby. It seems that way from the different series and the things they put him in as well along the way. So I think it might put him over. I think Darby might win in surprise fashion.
I'm really happy that they've kind of segued. Thank God that Being the Elite really built up this audience because they were able to segue it into these other accounts like Road to Double or Nothing, Road to Fyter Fest, and right now they need this. They need this right now.
You, as someone like me who consumes all their shows, I know you do a little less, but Eli, I saw this brought up on Reddit, and I actually agreed with this person who said this. And tell me what you think. Do you think that they need to consolidate all their YouTube channels so that someone can accurately, or so someone can concisely follow along?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I don't understand the purpose for like the Nightmare Family YouTube channel and then the Being the Elite. I think,
and then also an AEW channel.
Yeah, that is. I mean,
I assume that'll probably start happening as soon as like they have their television.
It's a minor inconvenience to me, to be honest.
I feel like the Road 2s, as much as I understand Cody started them, they seem like they should be on the AEW YouTube channel so they can be building that up.
Product.
It's for an AEW product. And it seems like Being the Elite is not going to be as prevalent as it is now once the show starts in October.
There's no real use for it. I
mean, there's still like use for fun online
they
content.
can dick around to it.
But the thing is, I don't think they're going to keep doing it. The closer we get, the more they seem like I don't know if we're going to keep doing this.
Well, and also just to be clear, like even if they have all like these different YouTube channels still going on at that point in time, if they have their website as a mechanism to help aggregate that content and everything like that, that's a totally different story. Then they can have a litany. I mean, everybody could have their own YouTube channel, but as long as their website's there to corral them, put them in the order that you're speaking of, and everything like that, people don't need to go to YouTube. They can consume the content from AEW.
That's a very good point, too. I do think they need to step up their website game a little bit more. Absolutely. All right, we're running out of time here. Jamie, where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at JAMIE_IOVINE or on Instagram at JAMIEIOVINE. You could check out our weekly drops on the network. That's the NTWRK app, which is exclusive products, highly curated products that we do. We do like 1 to 2 product drops a week. Like I said, we used to be. I mean, we're available on iOS, but now we are really, really, really soon going to release the Android version.
Nice.
Like really soon. But in the meantime, we have a desktop version that's open that you can access.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, for everybody. So everybody has
access.
Everybody has access. There's no reason you should not be onto the network and see what's up.
Awesome.
And also just check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood on Fight every Sunday.
And what about you, Eli?
Twitter, Elijah Bates, at Elijah Bates. Twitter, at Elijah Bates. Instagram, at Brindlebeard.
You can find me at Ryan Satin on social media, at Wrestling Sheet for the website and show, ProWrestlingSheet.com. That's where you find all the top stories in the world of professional wrestling throughout the week. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello, thank you. I appreciate it. While you're here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments that pertain to the show, or maybe if they don't pertain to the show, you can leave them there if you want. But if you don't want to watch us, if you just want to listen to us, make sure you check out our podcast feed as well. It's on Podcast One, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all that stuff. Just search Wrestling Sheet Radio. Okay, that's it. We're done. Officially tapping out for now. We got to air things out in here. Until next time, stay out of the dirt and keep your eye on the sheet.